Hey guys, so this is a little bit of a different video. And me and my company, really what we've done over the past, even just I would say over the last 3 months, we've booked historically up to over 800 appointments. I think maybe even more. I think a little over 1,000 appointments in the last 2-3 months alone. And these are all for home service businesses. That's not even including leads, by the way. Leads would probably be another 1,000, 2,000 on top. The reason I say this is the way that we're able to generate not just the volume of appointments, but what I see from the home service businesses receiving these appointments is a few things that they usually mess up on. And it might seem simple at first, but I see it all the time. And I'll give you one example. One company that we worked with is doing $430 million in revenue per year and still didn't have this structure set up. And I was amazed. I was like, how do you have a full functioning sales team, not even having like the basics of a sales process set up on confirming your estimates and appointments? How are you going to get the best out of it? It's the easiest way to generate more revenue with the exact same spend. Like nothing changes on your spend. You just change the process and then it results in a lot more revenue going into your business by extension of showing more appointments. As a result of showing more appointments, you send more estimates. As a result of more estimates getting sent, more estimates get approved and you make more money. I'm going to walk through probably it's probably about 6 steps really. I'm going to break it down one by one. So first step is the pre-call the pre-call call. And what I mean by that is whatever source you're getting your leads from, let's just say they're booking estimates directly on your calendar. If they're self-generated, it's even better. But you have an appointment on your calendar scheduled by a lead. Now, this lead, they might know of your business, but they don't really know you or the service person, the salesperson actually going to see that person on an appointment, right? So the first thing you want to do is actually introduce yourself and quickly, ideally less than an hour. And if your guys aren't stacked doing 12 appointments per day, should be no problem being able to call a new booking in your calendar in less than an hour. It's very easy. 5-minute call. Hey, Jim, how you doing? I just wanted to reach out to you. I noticed that you booked an appointment with us. What exactly are you trying to get out of this? What are you looking to do? Can you give me a bit of a breakdown? And then you can go through the steps and go through that. Now, I'm going to go through that. And since in step 4, I'll break down exactly how to do that too. Just getting that personal touch point, introducing yourself and pre-selling is one of the biggest game changers because they're familiar with you and they expect you to come out, right? If I call a home service company, I book them 2 weeks out. I never hear from them until then. If I don't really have a burning desire to get this done, I'm canceling that appointment, 100%. Why would I want to? They didn't reach out to me. They don't really seem like they care about me as a customer. Now, step 2, and this is done a lot of the time with CRM, so it's actually very easy to set up if you have a decent CRM. So it's automated pre-call and confirmations. Now, the way to do this, right? Pretty much every CRM has this function. If it doesn't, you can use scheduling softwares like Calendly, or you can do separate ones like ConvertKit that send out like email confirmations, email and text confirmations to be fair. But if you have a decent CRM, it should be capable of sending out email and text confirmations to people. Now, this is one of the first SOPs that I give to anyone that comes on board with us. It breaks down like literally like 17 different pre-confirmation text options, emails that you can send to customers. Personally, we prefer to keep it within 6-7 confirmations max, just so people don't feel like they're being spammed with confirmations. Because again, you can go one way where you don't confirm at all and they cancel. You can go the other way where you spam them with 400 testimonials and all this extra stuff, confirmation. By the way, you're going to be here in 20 minutes, 1 hour, 10 minutes, all this type of stuff. At that point, I'm just like, stop these guys. I don't want to deal with it. They're just spamming me. So automated pre-call confirmation. Right, what that looks like is typically what you'll do is confirmation immediately. This is with an email and a text, just being like, hey, we received your appointment. It's at this time, at this date. So confirm, text and email. The next one is typically, it depends how far out, and you can usually have an option that specifies, but you want it to confirm generally maybe 24 hours after the confirmation. So some people book within 1 to 2 days, and typically that's not important, but if you have short booking times, it's likely not necessary to put this step in. But let's just say it's a week out. You want at least a 24 to 48 hour confirmation. Send over some cool stuff that's associated with your company. Ideally outcomes, not technical stuff, because no one really cares about that, especially before an appointment. So for example, if you're a renovation company, show them what it looks like, some renovated houses that you've done. 24 hours after confirmation. So this is confirming all this type of stuff too. Now, this is the key. This is really where the main stuff happens. Is you want to have 24 hours before, 1 hour before, and 10 minutes before. The reason I say 6 is because some of these are going to have text confirmations too. For example, the 1 hour one, I do both. Now I've ran this probably across north of 50 plus companies, and the results speak for themselves. Like, it's insane how much just putting in this structure with obviously good text and making it seem actually genuine makes a difference to conversions and estimates and warming the leads. Because again, especially if you're getting it from a cold lead source, the more you can do to warm them up beforehand, the better your appointment's going to go. Right? The more likely you are to send them a proposal. Now, number 3, calendar setup and really integration if you have an external software. So if you're using a native CRM calendar, that's fine. That's great. In fact, ideally it has the functionality to set up what we call in the operations industry is a round robin calendar. So what that means is all the appointments go through one link, and then they automatically divert them to your sales team members based on a priority system. And the reason I say priority system is because you can connect it to your best reps with the best leads. And if they perform better, you can give them more leads. And if the leads that are sent to the bad performing reps are still not converting, you can reduce the priority even more. Right? So you're just incentivizing your sales team to just get better. Right? The better that they close, the better that they work, the more leads that they get, the more opportunities they get. So naturally, they're going to want to do better. Now, with the calendar setup, I would still recommend always setting up round robin, regardless of how many people are on your sales team. Because almost every calendar functionality allows you to have round robin setup, and then you can just add more people as you go, but it's still going to function with one person. And why I do that is because as you scale your team with time, you're not going to have to change your marketing channels. Now, the biggest thing that I see, especially with service business owners, is they just don't know where their leads are coming from. They can't split it by sources. Obviously that they know that they're getting 40 leads via paid ads, 80 via cold call, 3 by referral. But in terms of internal tracking on the CRM, almost always non-existent. The reason I say this is when you set up round robin, an easy way to avoid going through the pain and anguish of setting up custom UTM links per source, and setting up complex tracking systems like Hyros and Pixels and that type of thing, is just create 4 events, 5 events, whatever, however many lead sources that you have. Say, for example, you have 3 lead sources, set up 3 round robin events, right? And if you're using a software like Calendly, which is great for this type of thing, it's super easy. Ideally within your CRM, it has functions to differentiate calendar appointments. What it does is, 1, it controls the routing, but 2, you can, on the back end, you can sort them via automation. So if you use tools like Zapier, it's very simple to set up. I might even do a separate video on this too. But if you use Zapier, you can sort by internal tracking on those round robin events and sort by source. So for example, cold email, paid ads, it's all 4 different round robins, 1 for each. On the internal note, you can see it's cold call or paid ads. The customer can't see a difference in the link. But on the back end, every time an appointment comes through, Zapier is telling your system, hey, that's a cold call lead. Hey, that's a cold call lead. Hey, that's a referral. And it starts to get a lot easier to track. You don't have to manage anything. So 100% calendar setup, so overlooked, but it's a big, big game changer for making just your life easier. You're not going to have to manually go in. I had a guy, he was running like a massive company too, going back each week through all of his appointments and changing each one of them manually. I was like, dude, you're wasting like 4 hours of time, and not, let alone your mental bandwidth, going through all of this extra stuff when you could literally just take 10 minutes, set this up when you set up. I'll give you the SOP. It's so easy. And then all of a sudden, all your tracking is automated. That's a big one. So round robin distribution and calendar setup. Next one, pre-selling. Now, I talked about this briefly with the pre-call call, but if you can pre-sell your leads before, it's going to just make them so much warmer. And we were talking about, if it's a cold call lead, ideally you want to warm it up as much as possible before you actually get to the estimate, or to the appointment, so you can actually give an estimate, right? There's a good chance that you're going to be able to give them an estimate if they know who you are, they're familiar with your service, and they know what they're coming to talk about. If you do none of this, hey, you booked an appointment, hey, do you want a roof inspection? Yeah, I want a roof inspection. Okay, cool, booked. Nothing between. They don't know who you are, what your service is, what you can do, timelines, who they're going to be dealing with, what the process looks like, what time they're coming, what date, all this type of information that people just want to be informed on, right? More context, the better. There's a few things when you want to get your sales reps to do, or you, if you're handling the sales appointments. First one, implication. Now, what an implication looks like is, if you don't do this, what happens? And a good example is a lot of home services are actually very necessary. So it's very easy to give implication questions. If your roof has a massive hole in it, if you don't get this fixed, your house is going to crumble. You know what I mean? If there's a storm, if there's rain, your whole house, your walls are going to get soaked. You're probably going to get mold. It's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're going to have to get the insurance out. It'll probably, you might have to remortgage the house after all this damage. Implication, right? You want to briefly talk about implication. You don't want to sell it too hard, especially if it's a cold lead, but you just want to have it in their mind that if they don't do this, then it's going to cost them more money, right? And that's what's going to justify them taking the time to have your appointment, to take your estimate. Now, next one is short discovery. Now, everyone knows part of the sales process is going through the discovery process. Typically, we're going to leave most of this to the appointment itself. But one thing that I learned, especially working in the info industry, I used to work in that industry. We did hundreds of thousands of dollars a month and millions in some cases. And for some of the companies that I worked with, it was consulting on this, right? The way that it worked is you would have setters or appointment bookers or SDRs as we know them, booking calls onto closers or sales account executives' calendars. What they would do is, what I noticed is we did a big study and they had two different companies doing the exact same sales process, except for one thing. One had their setters do a short discovery and one had them do no discovery, and they booked onto the calendars. Now, they had pretty similar booking ratios, but the show rate was massively different. It was a difference of like 30 to 40%, which is a lot, especially since the average show rate is probably industry standard 70 to 80%. 30, 40% of that is huge. And all that was because they invested the prospect's time in a short discovery, understanding where they're at, what they want to do, why they want to do it, getting implication questions, 7 beliefs, breaking down all the type of basic stuff that you think you might overlook, is really just getting the prospect more invested into you as a company and really the reasoning why they want the service. Now, last one is just rapport building. It's pretty simple. You're more likely to trust someone you have rapport with, you enjoy being around them. So especially when you have the round robin set up, it's going to distribute to a salesperson's calendar. That salesperson is going to get notified. That salesperson should reach out to them within an hour. That salesperson should then go through short discovery, ask implication questions, and build rapport, especially if that salesperson is going to be one taking the estimate. And ideally, you want the people that are doing the estimates taking the sales, because then they have the direct relationship with the customer, and it becomes so much easier to start starting the sales process from the second the lead comes in, as opposed to waiting 2 weeks from they booked. They don't know who you are. You've come in, they're not familiar with the service. And all of a sudden you have to take 4 or 5 meetings to close this prospect, when really you spent all that time pre-selling them before they're warm. By the time they get there, it's like such a logical conclusion that, yeah, it's obviously we need to get this fixed. What's the price? And then you can go through there. Now, last one, excuse the terrible writing, is reminders. Now, we kind of spoke about on the pre-call confirmation, but what I mean by reminders is a lot of people, they will write this big corporate message. And I don't know if you guys have ever had a call confirmation before, or you've booked with a service and they just blast you with these automated texts. It's so obvious. It's so obvious it's automated. And we talked about it before. It's like AI this, AI that. It just feels so generic and impersonal, especially if you have a good CRM system. You can do it through Calendly. Also, they allow SMS and emails. But if you're going to send reminders, make sure, obviously, there's certain things that you want to include on every single reminder. We have scripts, SOPs on this type of thing. But on the reminders themselves, the overarching theme is to make it feel personal. Make it feel like someone actually wrote it. So on the SMS, you can say like, "Hey, John, I appreciate you taking the time to book a call. I'm looking forward to talking to you on X date, X time. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions." Again, that's a super generic example, but really what you want to do is chuck in some spelling mistakes, some low caps, not everything's formatted perfectly. So there actually is a chance of believability that is not some bot sending it, right? If the email and a text, if they feel like that person has actually went to the effort of sending them an email, sending them a text, giving them a confirmation call, understanding their need, all of a sudden your appointment ratio starts to go like that. And let's do an example, right? You have a 80% show rate versus 40%. Option one books 100 calls. 80 show up. Option two, 100 calls, 40 show up. Now, let's take the estimation, the proposal value, the proposal percentage is the exact same across both, right? On every show, 50% of them get proposed, which is probably quite low. From the proposal rate, the close rate, let's assume a 25% close rate, which is, again, fairly low, to be honest. This person's closed 10 deals from this. This person has closed 5. It's literally doubling your revenue by putting in this. It sounds so basic, but literally just by fixing your show rate, you can double your revenue with the exact same setup with no extra cost. It's literally just implementing these 5 things. And all of a sudden your appointment rate's gone up. As a result, your show rate, your propose rate, and your close rate goes up. And then you can start to backtrack this type of stats and be like, okay, our average revenue per sale is this much. If we get this many appointments, this many are going to show, this many are going to propose, and this many are going to close. And then it's a lot easier to start projecting your revenue. So this is the biggest game changer. Implement those 5, and I'm telling you, your appointment rate will go so much better than what it is. And you won't have to worry about it much because it's all automated also.